Hi class, this is a short video on the phases of the moon, and right here in this opening picture you see the moon in its various phases, including new moon up here, full moon, and first and third quarter. When talking about the phases of the moon, it's very important to keep in mind that the phase is determined by the relative position of the Earth, the moon, and the sun. And what we want to be able to do is to answer questions similar to this. For example, at approximately what time of the day does a full moon rise above the horizon? The answer to this question is sunset, and I'm going to show you how to figure that out, and also any other iteration on this question where I could change the phase of the moon from full to new moon or first quarter or third quarter. And rather than asking you when does that phase rise above the horizon, I could also ask you when does it set and when does it reach its highest position in the sky. And it will be in the southern sky. And when it reaches its highest position in the sky, the way that I would word that is I would say, when does it cross your local meridian? And crossing the local meridian, that's, for example, that's what the sun does at around noon. When the sun travels through the southern sky throughout the day, around noon it reaches its highest point. It's located due south, and in astronomy we call that crossing the local meridian. All right, so to answer questions like this, it's tremendously useful to draw a quick sketch like this, and I'll ask you to do this in your homework. You first choose a position of the sun. So by default, I normally just make it over here to the right, although there's nothing special about that. You draw the Earth and you draw the moon. And the really important thing to keep in mind is that virtually everything in our solar system, when viewed from the top down, occurs in a counterclockwise direction. So as we saw in the previous video on the zodiac signs, the Earth and all the other planets, they orbit the sun counterclockwise. Well, in addition to that, the Earth rotates on its axis every day counterclockwise, and the moon orbits the Earth counterclockwise as well. So first of all, let's look at the various phases of the moon. This is the new phase where the moon is in between the sun and the Earth, and any observer on Earth, when they look up at the moon, they're going to be looking at the non-illuminated side of the moon, and the moon will always be located fairly close to the sun when it's in its new phase, and you hardly even recognize that it's up there when it's a new moon, but it is. It's right near the sun. So starting with the new phase, about a week after that, the moon will be in its what we call the first quarter phase, where it's orbited by a quarter of its orbit. This takes about a quarter of a month or a week. And now an observer on Earth will look up at this moon and they will see the moon half illuminated from the sun, half non-illuminated. That's the first quarter moon. About a week after that, you get to the full moon, where an observer on Earth, you would have to be on this nighttime side of Earth. An observer on Earth would see a fully illuminated moon, and then finally we get to the third quarter moon. All right, so now we ask the question, when does this phase rise, set, and cross the local meridian? So first of all, let's go back to new moon phase, and you look at this little person that I've drawn on Earth, and you ask the question, what time of day is it for this little person? Well, the sun is directly above their head, and they're right in the middle of the daytime side of Earth, so it's noontime for this person right here. This is about 6 hours later. The person has rotated with the Earth by a quarter of its rotation, And look at where he or she is right now, just leaving the daytime side of Earth and entering the nighttime side of Earth. And if this person were to look in this direction, they would see the sun setting below their western horizon. As you probably know, the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And the whole idea of the sunset is when you observe the sunset, you are riding along with the rotating Earth, and you are leaving the daytime side, entering the nighttime side, and getting your last glimpse of the sun in the western sky. This is what the person looks like at midnight, sunrise, when the person gets their first view of the sun in their eastern horizon, and back to noon. All right. So we can see that the new moon crosses this person's local meridian at the same time that the sun crosses their local meridian, which is at noon. And the new moon sets as the sun sets. And you don't see the new moon at midnight because it's on the same side of the earth as the sun is. And then finally, you would see the new moon rising. You could imagine when the person gets back here, this would be sunrise, and the person would see the new moon rising with the sun at sunrise. All right, let's change the phase to first quarter. So at first quarter right here, what time of day is it for the little person as I've drawn them? It's midnight. And what is the first quarter moon doing at midnight? Well, look, this person is at the midnight location on Earth. This person is getting their last view of the first quarter moon. And as they rotate more with the Earth, they will no longer be able to see this. So at midnight, the first quarter moon is setting below this person's horizon. And then at sunrise, it's sunrise because this person's getting their first view of the sun, and they are just entering the daytime side of Earth, and the first quarter moon is on the wrong side of the earth. At noon, when the sun is high in the sky, the sun is crossing this person's local meridian. They're getting their first view of the first quarter moon. So here we go. The first quarter moon rises at noon. That could very well be a homework or exam question, and you would want to make a drawing like this to show that. And then finally, the first quarter moon crosses this person's local meridian. It's highest in the sky, just as the sun is setting. So the first quarter moon crosses this person's local meridian at sunset. You go to the full phase right here. And what you notice right here, what time of day is it? It's sunset. As the sun is setting and the person is entering the nighttime side of the earth, simultaneously the full moon is rising. You may remember seeing this in your everyday life. When you see the full moon rising, you might remember that always occurs at sunset or very near sunset. The full moon crosses this person's local meridian at midnight, and finally the full moon sets below this person's western horizon just as the sun is rising above this person's eastern horizon. And you do not see the full moon at all during the day because it's on the wrong side of the earth. And finally, we get to the third quarter moon, which we see is setting for this person. This person's getting their last view of the third quarter moon just as the sun is crossing their local meridian. So here's the answer to a question: is the third quarter moon sets at noon. All right. And really the only way to figure these types of questions out is to make a drawing like this. And you start new moon, first quarter, full, third quarter. You put the third quarter moon right there. And this is the position of a person for the third quarter moon to be setting. And what you see is that is at noon. At sunset, the third quarter moon's on the opposite side of the Earth, and at midnight, what is the third quarter moon doing? The third quarter moon is rising at midnight, and finally it is crossing this person's local meridian at sunrise. So when you see questions like this, you want to go ahead and make a drawing. You start by drawing the sun from some direction, the earth, the moon, and just keep in mind that the earth rotates counterclockwise and the moon orbits counterclockwise.